There we go. Good morning, Kim. Welcome, Kim Douglas, to the Alexandra Show. So happy to have you on. This is our second time doing a podcast together. And it's
and
so
welcome
nice to see
Bold
you.
Like Her. You're also on my show.
I know. This is so fun. It's 2 for the price of 1. Double doozy.
I love it. And it's so different now, because the first time we spoke to each other, we didn't know each other very well. I definitely knew you were cool. But I didn't just know how cool.
Totally. Well, yeah, the first time we talked, we only had met on the internet at that point, right? Yeah. Like we had not met in person prior to that. And right. So, and then we chatted on your podcast, which was awesome. It was such an honor to be a part of that. And then you ended up in my chair at the salon.
Exactly.
And we got to know each other way better.
Yeah. Like, how have I not been here before? And the funny thing is, first of all, the power of social media, right?
Oh, 1000%.
It is so amazing and so crazy and can be really crazy sometimes. But
totally. And I think that a lot of times, we do, and there is, certainly some sides of it that can be challenging, right? And I think it's easy to sometimes get swept up in that. And it's really important to remember the good. I know
beautiful things,
right? There's so much good that comes out of it. I know for me, especially during COVID, but not just during COVID, I made so many awesome connections, through people on the internet who are in the same city that I'm in, but perhaps our paths wouldn't have crossed. I don't know if they would have,
Right. And the crazy thing is that I found recently, I was trying to clean out some things from my phone, pictures, and I found this screenshot of your Instagram from a couple of years ago before I knew you.
Isn't that?
Because I saw that you specialized in blondes.
Yes.
I was in search of that. And I must have just screenshot it, like we do so many things, right?
Oh, I know, right?
Find it later. I never did buy that top. Or whatever.
Totally.
But I was like, oh my God, look at this. And now but we ended up meeting because somehow, getting back to the social media thing is that your friends know people and somehow you find each other, right?
Totally.
And it's beautiful. And, I found that you were doing a podcast and you're this cool chick. And I was like, she looks like somebody.
Totally. I know. And then it's like, once we met, we realized all these other connections that we had too, which is so cool.
Yeah. Working out and like all the people, friends that we have.
Totally. I know that's such a great community in Boston, the fitness community. I feel like that's another great way to meet like-minded people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've done some workouts together. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's been, right? It's always the best. That's the best. And it's been such an honor getting to know you and learn more about your journey, because you've kind of come full circle, right? Like you started out in radio in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And then you moved to Boston and you're a kick-ass real estate agent, but you still do this podcast. So you kind of still have your foot in all the foot in the pot. I don't know. That's not the right analogy.
Yeah. My hands in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that only started a couple of years ago with a podcast now. And, it was just like my daughter, Devin, just kept saying, like, cause she got into it, right? She on everything. It keeps me cool. Right.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
But she kept telling me to do podcasts and she would have to listen to them. And then finally I was on one as a guest, and that's all it took, really.
Yeah. To reignited the fire.
This feels amazing. And I'm so glad that I've done it. And it's really, introduced me to so many amazing women who are doing incredible things around Boston. It just warms my heart so much.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the focus of your podcast.
Sure. Thank you. And it's Bold Like Her, name change in the past year, but it remains the same with the theme, in that it is all about people who are doing amazing things. I focus on women who are, they inspire me so much. They're like you, who are influencers, they're game changers, out of the box thinkers.
Right.
Just doing such incredible things, and mostly all around the Boston area.
Yeah, which is so awesome. And I love that, like, women building other women up. And I think that that's something that I really love about the salon environment, because that's an environment where women feel, you know, kind of like that guard is down. You know how people always talk about like girls in the bathroom at a club, like they're drunk,
yes,
complimenting each other. It's like, why can't we be like that every day? You know, like complimenting someone else isn't taking anything away from you. It's actually making you shine brighter, you know? And so I love that you focus the podcast on women and building women up, and you just create and bring together such awesome communities, which is so cool. So
thank you.
Yeah, so Fred, thanks for doing that.
We're so in need of that, right? We just are. And because some people get caught up in things, and I work in a competitive business, and it's okay to be competitive, but let's just like keep it together.
Totally, know? Right?
Keep lifting each other.
Totally. And it's one of those things, it's an eternal challenge, but it's like, be competitive with yourself and be inspired by others.
I love that.
Right?
That is a great quote.
Yeah, because what's the, like, someone else, like, you can't compete with someone else. You can only compete with yourself, you know?
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone brings something different to the table. Totally. Yeah.
How did you get started with your podcast? What was inspiration for that?
You know, for me, it was, I have been on, like all of us, a lifelong journey of, I don't know, self-evolution, I guess you could say. And I found myself, you know, I've been working in salons for 20 years and behind the chair for 15, which is wild. I started when I was 6, everyone, don't worry. But I found myself having a lot of the same conversations with all of my clients, whether it was about working out, whether it was about, you know, the work I was doing in therapy or all those different things. And I was like, wow, I have like, and I remember one time someone said to me like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You have your whole life together. And I was like, what? I was like, far from it, but like, wow, thanks. I'm glad that's what you see from the outside.
Yeah.
But it made me realize that I have all these incredible people in my life that help me get it together, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if I'm having all these conversations in my chair with all these people, it might be of interest to other people out there in the world.
No doubt.
And so that's kind of how it started. My first one was with my therapist, and I kind of just like went down the line of all the really influential people in my life and how they helped me and what they do and tell their story. Yeah, so it's been really cool. I definitely, this is awesome that we're doing this today, because it's getting my fire ignited again. I have been like a little delinquent, I won't lie, on my recordings.
It's tough to keep up with, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the podcast,
it really is.
I've seen some friends start them, and then, you know, it kind of falls by the wayside or something.
Yeah.
I try to stay consistent with mine. When, you know, the outro on my podcast actually says, listen every Monday. So
yeah.
So,
yeah, you gotta hold yourself accountable.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So I have to, you know, I try to stay with that. And I'll even mention it on the podcast if it's late, like it comes out on Tuesday or something. And I'm like, well, you know, or I went on vacation one time and didn't do one.
Totally. But that's reality, right? That's reality. Because everyone can relate to that, right? Like, you know, we all have goals and motivation, and sometimes things get slipped, and, you know, you kind of go with the flow. But we wanted to chat in the month of June because you and I have had a lot of conversations around pride and what that means to, you know, each of us and our communities. And so I'd love to kind of open this conversation with you sharing your story.
Yeah, about coming out.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. If I look back now, there's so many signs, right? The crushes on my teachers. But I mean, I really did. I had a high school sweetheart who I ended up marrying, Chris.
Wow.
I talk about quite a bit. But, you know, so I saw him, but then afterwards in college and everything, doesn't everybody have the experience in college?
Yeah. Some that we don't want to share.
I did have that, and then I just kind of let it go, and nothing else happened after that. I did end up marrying Chris. So it's interesting because I feel that many people, when they hear I was married to a man, and I also have a daughter, and shout out to Devin.
Shout out, Dev. I know you guys are like the coolest mom-daughter duo. It's so awesome.
Thank
watching you guys. Yeah.
So they probably just assumed that I was with this guy. I realized I was gay and I left, but that's not the case. So it ended up, you know, we split for a different reason. And then after that, I met a woman and something happened. got this vibe from her, and she got it too. And I probably gave it off, you know, maybe I had the vibe too, right?
Yeah.
Because she knew it was like, okay to like, you know, kind of show interest. But anyway, so I had an experience there, and then it just kind of like opened the floodgates for me. So there was the college experience, then there was this woman, and then it just kind of went from there. I would date a guy, and then a woman, and then a woman, and then a guy, and then it's all women, you know. And so it was an evolution. It was definitely a process for me, until I realized this is where I am. And I will say today, I've been through a couple long-term relationships, and I would not change a thing about my story. I am so happy to be out and proud. And I get so much support from I don't think I've lost any friends over the fact that I came out, you know.
My gosh, I would hope not.
Straight Kim, you know, and then you become gay Kim.
And what is, I know you said like it's really awesome that you're, you know, like you said, out and proud. What is the level? Because I hear sometimes like with celebrities, for example, they're like, my sexuality is my business, right? And I think that too, like, you don't like that. Your personal life is your personal life. You don't have to share elements of that if you don't want to. But there's also the element of being out and proud so that you can show other people and younger generations like, hey, this is okay. It's okay to live this way. And like, you don't have to live in shame. You don't have to live in fear. So what kind of responsibility, I know that's kind of heavy, but what kind of responsibility do you feel to share with the world around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do believe it was a process. I don't think I was waving any flags in the beginning, you know? Right. And now I do. And I'll tell you what, a lot of it happened when I came to Boston. And I saw the Pride Parade was so amazing and big here. The community is so big. And of course, social media now too is a place to display that kind of thing. And so by going to events like that and then posting about it, and then little by little just putting it out there, and then everybody just knows. But I just feel being your authentic self, like that's very important to me. And again, it took a long time. I was closeted until, you know, because here I was with a daughter and, you know, an ex-husband, and worrying about what his response was going to be. And, you know, this was years ago. So once we did discuss it, and then I was open with my daughter from a very young age, and I'm so proud of the way she is. And she, you know, she is a lot like you in that she just loves everybody and has gay friends, and, you know, so gay friendly. I love that about you too. You're such a gay friendly person and an ally. It is so beautiful. And
thank you
for that.
Thank you. And that's something that we actually had a conversation about recently that was really valuable to me. So thank you, because I was saying, and I, you know, actually I was like, wanted to post something on social media, but then I got nervous because I was like, am I saying the wrong thing? I don't want to come across the wrong way, but I feel like I grew up I don't, you know, where I grew up, with the family I grew up in, and, you know, the industry that I work in, and the people that I surround myself with, it's like a no-brainer. Like, it's like, like, obviously we accept everyone, you know, and you don't think about it. I don't, like, it wasn't like a conscious thought. And so what I was saying to you was that I never felt like I had to come out and say I'm an ally, because it was just like obvious. And like, doesn't everyone just like cool with this? Like, why, like, you know what I mean? And I realized, you know, that's very naive, because, that isn't the case for everyone. That isn't everyone's experience, you know.
It's sad, right? To think that you know, that there are still people who are, you know, just maybe not, you know, and I'm not asking everybody to be an ally and want to come to the parade or something like that. Just be open-minded about it and accepting, right?
Totally. Yeah. And so it's finding ways to, like you said, to show that, and, you know, and then there's this interesting thing also happening in our culture with virtue signaling.
Right. Yes. We talked about that too. So, it's June, you know, let's put the, you know, the rainbow flag in as a part of our logo or something, and then like rip it down at the end of the month. It's like, you know, are you really supporting, or are you just trying to like be cool for that month or something?
Right. And it's like a marketing opportunity for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so many companies, it's funny because again, my daughter works in, the merchandising industry. And, I hear about, well, they get putting out their pride clothing, or and it's like, well, I hope, that they are also inclusive of that throughout the rest of the year.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess that is kind of a question, because it's, you want to, in the month of June, it is the month that we are celebrating it. Right. And so you want to share that with the world, but then, how do you find ways to do that year round, whether it's by giving to a cause that you're passionate about, or, keeping that merch year round, maybe. I don't know.
Exactly.
What I mean? Like, it doesn't just have to be in that month. Yeah.
That term is very interesting to me. And this is like my Uber driver brought it up on my way to get that's done. And then we started talking about it, and I thought, well, it's such an interesting concept. You've had, Juneteenth, was first celebrated this year for the first time as a national holiday. And, you see people posting things. So, let's just hope that there's enough education around it, and, real support for things that, that are important like that, and not just like you said, just putting it out there because socially it seems like the right thing to do.
The right thing to do. Totally. Yeah. And I think, this is a slightly off topic, but with a lot of that stuff, for example, for me on social media, I don't feel this like strong urge to share things, because I'm like, everyone following me kind of has the same opinion.
Yeah.
So I assume, right? Right. So I'm like, I'm not the professor on X. So like, I'm not going to share, because someone knows more than me. You know what I mean? So I'll stick to what I know, and I'll do my hair tutorials and like stay in my lane,
Yeah, no. And I loved your posts. And I know that you were a little tentative on whether or not you thought it was right. And oh my God, I, as a person in the LGBTQ community, I thought it was beautiful, not a surprise. And
thank you.
You're just a warm, sensitive person, and you're just assuming that everybody else should be the same way.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I did share on my post on social media, is that like, I live in this bubble, but I'm like, my bubble's kind of awesome.
It is.
I hope everyone, I know, right? People are like, oh, people see the world through rose-colored glasses. I'm like, I would rather.
Me too.
Life is better, because when you focus on the positive, right? And I was actually just doing a little reading on this. One of my favorite other podcasters, Ed Milet, actually reading his book. And there's actually a neurological science that when you focus on something, your brain constantly searches for more of it, right? So like, you get a new car, you're driving, a yellow Jeep, and all of a sudden you see only yellow Jeeps on the road. It's like, well, everyone didn't just go out and buy a yellow Jeep, right? But like, that's what your brain is searching for. So if you see the good in people, if you see the positive in people, if you see those things in the world, that's what you're constantly going to be looking for more of.
What an amazing outlook. I love that. And more people should think that way, right?
Yeah. And trust me, we all have our days, right? I'm not saying every morning I wake up and I'm like, woohoo, but we try our best.
Funny stories too, though, concerning the how much of an ally you are, if I can.
Oh, yes. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to show you my other cutie, the other thing that we bonded over, Henry Noodle.
Oh my God.
You can come in. He's just getting picked up for some training.
Oh my God, I love it.
Say, see you soon.
Hi, Henry. Frankie's asleep right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We need to get them together again. Now Henry's a little older, and he can hold his own a little more with Frankie, I think.
Yes, they had one play date so far.
Yeah, and, thank you.
They had a blast.
I know, so fun. I know, we had some funny stories. Sorry about that little interruption there. But yeah, about over the years, and where I took like some hits with my fashion, which is really funny.
So you have these Love is Love socks, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. Because love is love, right?
It is. And so where were you? Was it to a spin class or something?
Yeah, I was at a workout class.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know me, like, I'm super friendly. And so I say hi to everyone, and I'm, introducing people, and I like to connect. And so I'll follow people, oh, what's your Instagram? Let's connect. I'll see you at class again. And I got home, and I was telling my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, I made a new friend today.
She's following me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. Like all this stuff. And then for a moment I was like, oh, I'm not, was that a friend? Or did they think I was like, oh, and like, right, love is love. And
yeah, exactly. And the cool thing is you're just so cool that even if she was like interested in you,
totally,
you're like, oh, that's cool, but you know what, I'm married, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because I'm like, what? Because that was something, I think I might have told you this story. Like, I one time had a friend that used to tell me things like, oh, like, because I've been wearing high top sneakers for like over a decade. I just love high top sneakers, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I maybe was wearing them before they were mainstream, like more mainstream, right?
Right.
And I remember a friend was like, said something like, oh, you shouldn't wear those. Like, you look like a lesbian when you wear those.
Right.
And I was like, okay, number one, is that an insult? Because that's not an insult. And it shouldn't be, is number one. Number two, like, the people who need to know my sexuality, they'll know.
Yeah.
And number three,
these
like,
are kick-ass sneaks. So.
Yes. And also like, ew, for you, right? And then fourth of all, guess who was asking to borrow my sneakers a year later?
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, no, you can't borrow them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, now that they're cool mainstream. No.
Yeah. So I just think it's, you're just cool. Like, and I don't know how many times I've said that in this podcast.
Thank you.
But like, again, like you know, you give off just that, like a cool vibe. So like, you know what I mean?
Well, I hope that, you know, this is what I strive for sure behind the chair at the salon, is that I hope that when people are in my company, they can just feel comfortable to be themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because in different ways, you know, not around this particular subject, but in different ways, a lot of my life, I wasn't comfortable being myself. And that's just like a really shitty feeling.
Yeah. And to be able to have, now that you have the position to be able to make people feel comfortable, how beautiful is that, right? So it's almost like that could be growth or healing for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like, at the end of the day, we're all kids in the cafeteria.
So true.
Right? You're like, is someone going to sit with me? Yeah, should I sit at this table? You know, and it's like, be the person that goes to the kid that's sitting alone.
And exactly, you're her, you know? To get back to what you were saying about the person saying you look like a lesbian. It's so interesting because TikTok is amazing, right? And so over the last couple of years, like it exploded, especially in the pandemic. And from my perspective, what I've seen is, okay, I fell into like lesbian TikTok because of the algorithm, right?
Well, I was going to say that I had a friend who joined TikTok and she was like, well, how do you get it to show you stuff you like? And I was like, just be on it for 5 minutes and it'll get to know you. She was
exactly.
Like, yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
So there's just been so much that I've learned, all the terminology, and even like, just my whole point of saying this too is that what a lesbian looks like or how they dress or something is not what, you know, it's not your mother's lesbian, like from ago or something like that. It's just so different now. Everybody, you know, especially where girls are coming out younger, and it's, you know, it's not like the typical butch or something like that, or wearing high top sneakers, like you can't tell. It's just such a, you know,
a wide spectrum.
Exactly. Thank you.
Right. I mean,
of like what people look like, how they identify. The point about TikTok was so interesting is that I don't know if people were just bored and they were at home and so they start scrolling, but the funny thing was, and the joke was, that all these women all of a sudden were realizing they were lesbians, right? Yeah. The pandemic.
Well, I think I told you that there was one couple that I was watching and I was like, damn, I was like, that girl is a hot. Like, wait a second.
Am I?
I know, I was like.
Well, I think also you're in the beauty industry, so you can certainly recognize a beautiful woman, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. but so true. But so like they had all this whole thing about like late in life lesbians, women coming out because they figured it out, you know, and the algorithm drew them there or something. And they're like this one of the videos I saw was a woman, you know, oh, first day on lesbian TikTok. And she's like, oh, go girl. Oh, and then in the next one, she's got like a backwards hat and she's like, yes, like it's all in it, you know. But
oh my gosh,
it was just like this whole thing of like women, you know, seeing more of it and what it might look like today. And it's just so different. And I mean, for me, I've always been drawn to like beautiful women, and you know, it's not like what you would consider typical. And then there's this whole thing of like, how do you identify if that person is or not? And you know, women who are very feminine and beautiful are on TikTok saying, what do I need to do to let you have somebody hit on me? And
yeah, right. I know that is really interesting. And like, it comes back to the look, right? Or like, the vibes that you're putting out, but it's all, you know, regardless of your sexuality, if you meet someone out in the wild, if you will, like, you don't know if they're in a relationship or not, or who they're in a relationship with. So shoot your shot, right? I mean,
yeah. I saw something else where a girl posted something where she was in a store somewhere and she caught this woman's eye, and I think they were with other people or something, and she thought the woman was staring at her or something. And then on the way out, the girl like just tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, you're really beautiful. And then the other girl said the same. She says, you are too. So they were like, you know, like more stuff like that should happen.
Totally.
And on a side note too, all right, I'm a lesbian, but the myth of like, I'm attracted to every woman that I see is not true, right? Right.
Yeah.
I could also see you or another beautiful woman and tell her that she's beautiful. And again, it's not necessarily hitting on you.
Oh, absolutely. No,
just
absolutely.
love your shoes, love your look. You're beautiful. Have a nice day.
Totally. Yes. That doesn't, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah. You can give other people compliments and you can acknowledge someone else's beauty, which does not mean that you are hitting on them.
Yeah, exactly.
1000%. But it's like, if everyone just lets their guard down, and to your point, like if you know, a lesbian hits on me, I'm flattered. Like,
I know.
I'm like, thank you. Right. I mean, I am married, but thank you, you know, like, well, I don't understand why that wouldn't just be a compliment.
And you are very aware of yourself though, right? And you're good with yourself and you're comfortable with who you are and what your sexuality is. And for that reason, it doesn't and wouldn't bother you. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's the people who are uptight that if that happened to them, they might get bugged out.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank, and they always say, and for that reason, I'm out. So sorry when you just said, and for that reason. Yeah. And so I think it's like,
I haven't been watching it, but I'm glad I got the lingo.
Oh yeah, you got the lingo. So, but it's one of those things, it's like, yeah, how can we as a community just make everyone be cool, comfortable, and confident?
Yeah.
So that you can take it all in stride.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, because I definitely have seen some people, and again, I see stories online too of people who say their parents might not have been cool with them, you know, being gay, and over time, then, you know, they show the dad, you know, with his arm around, you know, the girlfriend or something down the road, and it's just like, oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, just like, and if I could say, like, for me, I had to do my coming out on my timeline. You have to have that kind of sensitivity and patience with the people around you too. So they might not, you know, grab right on and be on board the way you are. So,
right. Yeah. So having compassion for both sides is
exactly.
What I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's, yeah, it can be challenging for both.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good perspective. Yeah.
So
and I
mentioned also, you know, you showed Henry a few minutes ago, and you know, it was so funny. Just before you showed him, you were making the analogy of the yellow Jeep you see everywhere. And I was going to say, right. So like when you get a Frenchie, now she's the yes.
I know, just when I was walking him earlier, there was 3 of us, 3 Frenchies out in the front. I was like, gang.
Yes, I love it. And it's so fun to watch you become a dog mom. And you're obsessed, just the way I am.
Is an understatement. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
I knew I would be.
What's
Go
that?
ahead. I said I knew I would be, but if anyone follows me on social media, I used to always take pictures of strangers' dogs. I would like talk to strangers' dogs in the street, and I was like, don't worry, once I get Henry, I will still continue to like think other dogs are cute. Like not. Yeah, I'm like, I only got eyes for Henry. And of course, like other Frenchies, and he has other dog friends and stuff. But yeah, no, my camera roll is exclusively almost Henry.
Right. Yeah. You introduced me to somebody else with a Frenchie recently, little Meatball.
Yes, Meatball.
Yes, he's so adorable. And his dad schooled me on a really cool meal for feeds his Frenchie, and his Frenchie was like very lean. And I always worry about Frankie because I always give her treats, right? Because I can't not.
Right.
But I thought, well, what's he feeding? God, this guy tells me like this whole thing, which I've heard for dogs, like if they have a bad stomach, but ground turkey with brown rice, quinoa, some peas and carrots. Yes. So I've been making this. And so now I meal prep for my dog.
I love it. You meal prep for your dog. I love it. It sounds like something that we could probably eat too. We would probably get lean eating that too.
I'm like, well, I should just eat that too. If I come home late or something, I'm like, well,
totally. Yeah. Toss a little seasoning in yours and call it a day. I love it.
She loves it. She loves it.
So awesome. I know. I love how dogs bring us together, right? I mean,
they do.
I have lived on this block in this building for 15 years. And honestly, I have met more people in the past 6 months than I have in the number of years before that.
Isn't it cool?
It's wild. Yeah.
Do you so I'm like, that you know the dogs' names?
Totally. Yes. I know the dog's name for sure. But that's the thing. I'm like, if you're moving to a new city or something, it's like, get a dog. I used to think like, oh, no way. It's too much work on my own. You know what I mean? Like you have to, but honestly, I'm like, get a dog. That's like the fastest way to a social circle.
Sure is. And I've gotten some date business from Frankie too.
That's awesome. Totally. Any dates though?
Yes, actually I did get one date from a person.
Because that's another way, right?
One person I actually dated.
I love it. Because I've seen Frankie's t-shirt. It says I'm the straight one.
Right.
There's a way to get it out in the open. No confusion.
Isn't that the best?
It's so good. It's so good. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that one of the things that is like, pushes our community forward is us being able to have open conversations like this. And that's some way that, people can get more comfortable and start to like break down those barriers or insecurities, or even, some people might be afraid to talk about it because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then that prevents them from talking about it. And so to your point, whatever side of the conversation you're on, being willing to have compassion, and if someone says the wrong thing, that, beat them up, but instead have a conversation about it and say, hey, this is why it doesn't feel good to say that.
Right. And I think that that's also part of the reason that I always like put it out there, say it, so that it kind of like, they're not wondering, or they know right away, and I'll make jokes or something sometimes too.
Yeah.
I think it lightens it for the other side, and they know it's easy.
Well, it's like everyone wants to put people in boxes. Like they want to say like, okay, that's Kim. She's a real estate agent, lesbian. Like, okay, that's, like whatever. People want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. When I spent, like I said, I've been behind the chair for 15 years. And one of my kind of hard and fast rules was that I didn't talk about dating to my clients, because for a couple of reasons. One, because if you're dating and you see someone every 12 weeks, like chances are the person you were dating then might not be in the picture 12 weeks later.
Right. This is true.
So if a client's coming in and they're like, oh, how's so-and-so? And you're like, oh, funny story. We don't talk anymore. And so that's stressful. Right. And then two, as a professional, it kind of takes away, like we're here to talk about hair, right? I'm here to establish myself as a professional. So if I'm constantly telling you dating sagas, it can take away from the professional aspect of the job. So that was one of my kind of hard and fast rules. However, when I got engaged, I could no longer hide it because there was a ring on my finger, right. That wasn't before. And I will say one of my prouder professional moments was that I had more than one person honestly say they weren't sure if I was engaged to a guy or a woman.
Oh my God. It's one of your proudest moments.
Because I was like, wow. I was like, I really had that box sealed tight, you know, that I was like such a professional, you know, and also there was like the unknown.
Yeah. That you're mysterious.
That's funny. I know, not anymore. I'm like, everything's on the table now.
Right. By the way, your wedding, oh, so beautiful.
Oh gosh, thank you.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh. And every time I see, I think you put a video out recently that included your dad, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And oh my gosh.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a really special experience, and I had a good team.
Yeah. Glam Squad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. Good event planner, awesome venue, and also like a pretty cool husband. That helps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, well, this is so awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for chatting.
Yeah. Do you have any either final nuggets, or if someone is struggling or doesn't know how to start a conversation?
Yeah, of course.
What would you say?
The coming out aspect, you know, just from what I can see, and I find this to be a beautiful thing, is that it's not as tough for people to come out. I think because the world is, you know, expanded its mind a little bit over the years. And you do see people doing this at a younger age, which I think is beautiful. Because they don't feel like they have to struggle with that. And we know that the suicide rate is horrible for people. And, you know, and most of that is surrounding having to come out to their family and their parents, and they're worrying and struggling with that and feeling that they're not going to be accepted. So one of the things I could say as a parent is please love your kids no matter who they love. Yeah. Right. And then if you're a person who is just struggling with the idea of like conversations with people that you know, who are, again, just be there and be a good ear and be listening. And this is a great story I can end on too for you, is that one of my closest friends knew that I was going through this process, right? Yeah. And never said anything to me. And I think that that's kind of how I would handle it too, probably. Yeah. Let people tell you on their own time. I wasn't sure, trying to figure it out. And she was, and now my daughter's young, you know, and we were at some radio event that I was doing at the beach in New Jersey when I was back in Philadelphia. Yeah. And my friend Gina came to watch my daughter while I was going to do the radio event. We're sleeping and we're all sleeping in the same bed, this big king size bed. Yeah. It's like Devin's there on the other side of me, and then Gina's laying right next to me. And I was like, I have to tell you something. We always joke now. First of all, she's like, oh, I knew that. Yeah. And then second of all, we joke about how I was laying next to her in bed when I told her.
It. She's like, where are we going with this?
She absolutely knew there was no.
But how awesome is that, right? Like, how awesome is that? The comfortability level of your friendship, that you can have that conversation in bed, you know, with your daughter there, and everyone's
like
just
asleep,
like,
you know.
No, totally. Yeah. And everyone's just like, cool.
She's like, that's awesome. She's like, I do that. Yeah. And so again, like, so you wouldn't want to force somebody to come out to you like that or something, but if you're just offering them a safe space to have the discussion, I think that's the best you can do. Yeah,
definitely.
Beautiful, that's right?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. I know, and I think the key is, I'm actually going to stand up here in a second. I'll see if I can do this without totally my shirt. Can you see that?
The world needs, and I can't see the bottom, your magic. Oh,
the world needs your magic. And I think
so
that
wonderful.
Like, that's one of the things that we are all so unique, and that's what makes you special. And so for anyone listening today, whatever, if you're struggling with something, whether it's sexuality, whether it's, you know, literally anything else, and you're feeling alone, or
mental health right now too. So important.
So important. that the world needs your magic. Your magic is special and it's different from everyone else's, you know? And so,
God.
yeah.
On the waterworks, girl.
Right? But the world needs that. And you never know who you're inspiring.
Yeah.
You never know who, by you sharing your story, that you're inspiring, you know, a parent to be more compassionate, you know, someone to have that tough conversation with their friend who might say like, yeah, I know.
I knew.
And I'm still here and I'm here for you. You know, like how awesome is that?
Oh my God. Love you.
Oh, the feeling is mutual. I love you too. It's been such a fun journey. I know we're going to have to do. Yeah. And I don't want to speak for you, but I will say,
I just am so glad to sorry to step on you there.
No.
Just, you know, I came to a new city almost 8 years ago, and you know, some people say as you get older, it's harder to make friends and keep good ones. But here I am in this new city. Things have changed for me. The reason that I came here is not a part of my life anymore, but Boston is, and I love it. And you know, water seeks its own level, right? Just like you said, you know, you think about things and they're drawn to you. And so the people, you know, are going to be drawn to you who are like-minded. Yeah. And I am just so grateful to have met you and have you as a friend. As a person does my color.
Yes, I know. Check out her color. Hey, no.
Yeah, look what you did.
No, it's been such, like I said, it's been such an honor. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, because that takes a lot, you know, no matter where you are in your journey, it still is a lot to share. So I appreciate that. And like I said, you never know who you're inspiring. It's just really a pleasure getting to know you. And I know, and I'm excited to continue.
Me too.
Yeah. And I am like probably a little more on the delinquent side about answering my DMs, just because I can get like a little overwhelmed. Not even that I'm that popular. I just get a little overwhelmed sometimes. That being said, of course, you know, anybody can reach out to either, like I said, I don't want to speak for you, but to either one of us. We're always a listening ear.
Thank you.
And if I don't respond right away,
you're an influencer.
Just ping me again, because it's not because I didn't want to talk. It's just because
yes, you're very, your social media is awesome. You have great tutorials about how to do hair. And underneath all of that is this beautiful person too.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I know. Next up, Frankie skateboarding.
That's right. My
Frenchies skateboarding.
That's right.
I will not be participating, but I will happily come in video.
You and Henry will watch.
Yeah, I'm not good on wheels. I need my feet on
tops. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I wear skating shoes. I don't actually skate. It's all a fashion con. All right. Well, thank you so much. So glad we got to do this month. And
thank you.
Yeah, to everyone out there, just keep on shining. You can follow me on Instagram at The Real Alexandra Show. Yeah. Where can they find you, Kim?
And for me, you can find me at Bold Like Her Podcast.
Awesome. And you can check out all her amazing guests, and we'll for sure be elevated by that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yours too. Amazing.
Awesome. Big love, everyone. All right, I'll stop recording.
Okay.